We don't know when our time will end on this earth, but sometimes we can toe the line so closely that we might be confirmed dead, then come back to life a moment later. Here are incredible people who died and came back to life. An. A baby boy from China named An was born prematurely in January of 2016. He spent 23 days in an incubator before his family decided to take him home for the Chinese New Year, where his condition was steadily going downhill. He was taken to the ER soon after and suffered a fatal heart attack and died. His body was sent to the funeral home for cremation, where he spent the night in a 10-degree morgue. But moments before he was supposed to be cremated, An came back to life and started crying. Now he fights for his life in the hospital. Mary Neal. In 1999, Mary Neal and her husband were vacationing in Chile. The couple was due for a kayaking trip, but Mary's husband wasn't feeling well, so she went alone to join her friends. As soon as she was in the kayak and put in the river, she didn't feel right. She floated over by a waterfall with a large drop and just went over. She landed and was pinned between rocks, and while the current was consuming her with water. While friends frantically searched for her, her body was being torn and broken, and Mary was without oxygen for 30 minutes. She recalls seeing herself being worked on by friends, but could feel none of it, and she truly believed that she was dead for good. She then recalled seeing spirits and talking with them and how her time wasn't over, but that her son, Willie's time was over and he would die soon. Mary made a full recovery, but Willie passed away at the age of 19 from being hit by a car in 2009. Annabelle Beam. Annabelle Beam was just 5 years old when she was diagnosed with pseudo-obstruction motility disorder and antral hypomotility disorder, which left her in constant pain in and out of the hospital. Both conditions were life-threatening and prevented Annabelle from living a fulfilling life to the point where she told her mother she wanted to die. At the age of 8 in 2011, Annabelle was climbing a tree, and when the branch gave out and sent her falling head first. She was airlifted to the hospital and was unconscious. While she was out, she claims that she visited heaven and saw her Mimi, who died a few years back. She said she also met Jesus, who said that when he sends her back to earth, she will be cured. Sure enough, when Annabelle regained consciousness, she was cured of both disorders. Her story has been made into a movie called Miracles from Heaven and will star Jennifer Garner. Justin Smith. In 2015, Justin Smith of Mikado, Pennsylvania was found frozen on the side of the road with no pulse or heartbeat. He had been on the ground for nearly 12 hours and it had been snowing. He was found by his father, who called paramedics, who declared him dead. At the hospital, one doctor decided to give Justin a chance and started performing CPR and pumped warm blood into him. His pulse returned and Justin was in a coma 2 weeks before waking up. He ended up losing his pinkies and his toes and doesn't suffer from any brain damage. Velma Thomas. In 2008, Velma Thomas was suffering symptoms of a heart attack and was transported to the hospital. There, her heart stopped 3 times, and there were no recordable brainwaves, which made doctors believe that she was clinically dead. She was put on life support because she was an organ donor, and doctors wanted to give her family time to come to terms with Velma's impending death and make arrangements. But once the life support machine turned off, Velma started moving her arms, opening her eyes, and even coughing. She wanted to know immediately where her son was and didn't realize how close to death she was. Zach Clemens. 17-year-old Zach Clemens collapsed after running, and he went into sudden cardiac arrest, which is a major killer in child and teen athletes. He was declared clinically dead for 20 minutes, and in that time, he met someone on the other side. He claims that he met Jesus while dead, and that Jesus told him that everything would be alright. After 20 minutes, he came back to life and is sharing his story worldwide. Anna Bagenholm. In 1999, Anna Bagenholm survived a skiing accident that left her trapped under the ice for 80 minutes in freezing water. She started to suffer from extreme hypothermia, and her body temperature reached just 56.7 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the coldest human body temperature ever recorded. Even though she found an air pocket under the ice, she suffered from circulatory arrest after 40 minutes. She was eventually found and taken to the hospital, where hundreds of doctors and nurses cared for her in 9-hour shifts. She awoke 10 days later paralyzed from the neck down and spent months in ICU recovering. Anna made nearly a full recovery and only has issues with nerve damage in her hands and feet as of 2009. Anita Moorjani. Anita Moorjani was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2002 and was afraid of death. In 2006, she had gone into a coma, and doctors were telling her family that her organs were shutting down and there would be no chance of recovery. While Anita was in her coma, she was able to see her husband willing her to come back to life, as well as conversations with doctors. In her time between life and death, Anita said she saw her deceased loved ones as well as others she didn't recognize. 30 hours later, Anita woke from her coma and her cancer ended up being completely in remission. Vanessa Tanasio. Vanessa Tanasio was a young mother who suffered from 2 heart attacks in a span of minutes after experiencing chest pains while getting her children ready for school. After suffering her cardiac arrest and collapsing on the couch, she was taken to the hospital where doctors kickstarted her heart. While in surgery, Vanessa suffered another bout of cardiac arrest, and doctors started using a highly advanced mechanical CPR machine called the Thumper. The machine kept her blood flowing to her brain despite being clinically dead for 42 minutes, and doctors were able to clear a blockage, thus saving her life. Vanessa eventually recovered and stopped smoking in hopes of improving her chances for a long life. We hope you enjoyed this video. Here's a couple other videos that we think you might find fascinating. And while you're here, please don't forget to click like and subscribe. Thanks!